And now, with little over a week until the 2024 presidential election, on the heels of assassination attempts and an unprecedented coup within the Democratic Party of a sitting president, well, we are now looking upon the event horizon of the American empire staring into the abyss. The juggernaut of political turmoil that is on its way will be a clash between those that seek to further destabilize and deconstruct the nation and its institutions on the one side, and most likely some form of pushback in the form of Caesarism in the long term. I should also remind you that Caesarism is a topic I have spoken on at length in previous videos, and links to those videos are in the description. But what you should be aware of from the outset is the sheer dysfunction within the country and its governance and what that means to you. Quite clearly, we've seen over the past several years government agencies that have been weaponized against the American people. The FBI glows. The DOJ is an attack dog against political opponents of the DNC. The ATF wants to grab Americans' guns, and the FDA prioritizes the pharmaceutical industries over our health. The Secret Service has allowed several attempts on President Trump's life with incompetence bordering on the criminal. And these coming weeks will be an inflection point within American history, one where the bought and paid for media will yet again attempt to install another Potemkin president through nefarious means and rejecting, or at least attempting to reject, the will of the American people. Thus, in troubled times like these, it's absolutely necessary for you to stay strong and healthy for yourself and to protect your family, because those supposedly charged with your protection are those that would appear to be seeking you the most harm. We are standing on a precipice. Thus, I've already spoken on Black Forest and its star product, NMN, and how the government is now attempting to restrict access to it. Not for health reasons, mind you, but for the money that big pharma can make. And why is that? Simply because it works. A study out of Harvard has already shown that NMN can reduce weight, cholesterol, and even blood pressure. It's the only thing that I know that not only slows down, but can also reverse aging. I myself have been taking NMN for over 5 months now and can honestly say it's been a game changer, as have several of my friends. And to this end, I've asked Black Forest to give you, my followers, a special discount because I want you guys to have a chance to get your hands on MNN before any potential restrictions come into play. Thus, for the next 48 hours, you can buy 2 and get 1 free. And Black Forest Supplement wants to ensure that people have access to MNN, but who knows? Things are changing fast. And they might be forced to stop selling this life-changing supplement. So I do urge you to check out the link in the description and grab some for yourself and take advantage of this buy 2, get 1 free offer while it lasts. Again, check it out. I believe you will not be disappointed. Link is in the description. I've mostly stayed out of this election cycle, at least publicly, and talk more about things like bureaucracy, corporate conglomerates, the media, along with big tech and censorship. And Trump, for his case himself, is so heavily censored on the mainstream media that he and his speeches carry more warnings than a containment box for plutonium. What I have spoken about at length is the false left-right paradigm and the nonsense idea that it's the American people who choose their presidents. It's the illusion of choice, cycle after cycle. But the same groups continue to rule the nation. And if the coup against Joe Biden and the undemocratic installation of Kamala Harris has not convinced you, I think nothing will. But to put this into perspective and put it simply, and using the example of Oswald Spengler's civilizational model, this election is occurring dramatically late in the life cycle of the West and the US in particular. And for those of you that have not seen my previous videos on Spengler's model, which is outlined in his seminal work, The Decline of the West, which was published in 1918, he postulates that human cultures and civilizations are akin to biological entities, each with a limited, predictable, and deterministic lifespan. Spengler predicted at the beginning of the 20th century, I might add, that at about the year 2000, Western civilization would enter the period of pre-death emergency, which would lead to 200 years of Caesarism. Again, Caesarism being extra-constitutional omnipotence of an executive branch of government, and that would be before Western civilization's final collapse. And I would say, and I think anyone who is honest with themselves would also say, that the more one looks upon the rotting husk of Western civilization, Spengler's model begins to make more and more and more sense. I think many also see that the writing is on the wall and that America as a republic is flailing and failing, if not already dead. Both parties are oligarchies filled with a terrible elite senatorial class, just using politics to enrich themselves. Think Nancy Pelosi if you need an image in your head. And it's clear that the government and the government of the United States exerts too much control over the daily lives of its citizens, and the plebeians, at least the Republican plebeians, are becoming increasingly irate with the ruling class. And soon, an American Caesar, as Spengler's civilization model predicted, will appear to appease these masses and win the hearts of the people. And because of the chaos that has been created by those that sought to deconstruct the United States, they will enthusiastically crown him emperor or first citizen in perpetuity. Maybe he will be assassinated, but his successors will consolidate power into a few hands of leaders that are attempting to revitalize the United States rather than see it continually deconstructed, as the forces of chaos found within the halls of academia, the controlled media, big tech, and the Democratic Party seek to accomplish. And just predicting here, if the US does go full empire, I would expect that in the years to come that America would most likely annex a fractured and dysfunctional Canada and then impose a new, more aggressive Pax Americana upon the rest of the Western Hemisphere. And more likely than not, it would have a more isolationist outlook and a return to fiscal sanity after the inevitable economic crash, as well as the removal of all foreign nations from the political process of a new or a reforged United States of the Americas. And thus the reason that the mainstream media, academia, big tech, and their allies in the DNC fear Trump is that they see him as the last key obstacle in their push toward dismantling the nation and creating a one-party state filled with disparate groups that have nothing in common but have become ever more dependent upon the government for their survival. Thus, an effectively sidelined mob. A fundamental key to understand Trump is his base, and it is the only base within the country that wants smaller government, less taxes, less government intrusion upon their lives, less regulation. But it's important to understand the agents of chaos within the DNC are also red, and I would suggest they too understand and at least see Trump in the Spengler model of a Caesarian figure. And he is a figure, an interesting one at that, as he could have retired, spent his days in Congress with different harems of beautiful women every day, enjoying all that his fortune could provide him. Instead, he has thrown himself into the political ring to the detriment of his family, businesses, relationships, and personal safety. There have been multiple assassination attempts, but he continues to rail against the decline of the country. Make America Great Again harks to the undertones of the American zeitgeist that America of the past was a better place, and currently it is on a downward trajectory. While those like Kamala Harris and her DNC handlers squeal in delight at the future of their total control over the country as the uniparty and as the American people are diminished. Donald Trump, whatever his true intentions are, is a lone voice in the wilderness in the twilight of the American experiment to at least stand against the decline, the chaos, and the degradation of the once great nation. And this is why he is hated thus. And it must be stressed, this hatred comes from the idea that his fight against the extreme liberal and globalist agenda of removing national borders, radical gender ideologies, the massive censorship of big tech companies that are working with globalist leaders to create the dystopia that favors their interests, are, for better or worse, well, this fight is wrapped up in the candidate of Donald Trump himself. Because he's not only a candidate of taxes, military spending, inflation, education, and so on, but in a more metaphysical sense, he is the only true leader that is the standard bearer of those that reject the wholesale transformation of their society. And this is why, more than anything, why the left and their minions despise Trump. He stands in the way of their machinations for cultural deconstructionism. The big problem, however, of these chaos peddlers in the DNC is they're now facing a society and social policy that has gotten so out of control, and the social engineering has gotten so bizarre that anyone who isn't from the most privileged classes or the most diehard deluded true believers no longer have the luxury of pretending to believe the nonsense that they are spewing in order to signal social status. But because they have tied themselves into ideological knots, they do and are convinced that he will be, that being Donald Trump will be America's Caesar. And this is why they continue on with their drivel that he is such a danger to democracy. I do, though, however, believe America has crossed the Rubicon and two paths lay before it. Something to remember is that most countries, or empires for that matter, they die from 1,000 cuts, and they commit suicide from within rather than being destroyed from the outside. Now, in the end, if I were to guess, I don't think Trump is a Caesarian boogeyman that the left makes him out to be. Trump's probable fate is to be more that of a Sulla figure. And before he's done, he will traumatize most of his enemies, but he will then pass the cause on and retire to die peacefully at home of old age, surrounded in luxury. That's it. So thanks very much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, check to see that you're still subscribed, as YouTube has unsubscribed tens of thousands of people without their knowledge or consent. And also, please remember to check out the amazing Buy Two, Get One Free campaign by Black Forests and their MNN going on right now. Link to that is in the description. You can do your own research, but their product is amazing and well worth it. Give it a try, and I think you won't be disappointed. And with that, again, I'll see you again in the next video. Bye for now.